Hi, I'm glad you're here. I'm David Landis, and we have these conversations every week about success, about accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish, your hopes, dreams, desires, your vision, the change you want to create, the change you're in the middle of and are trying to figure out how to respond to, the change that's just happening in the world, and what do we do about it so that we can live life the way we want to. Many of us want time and money freedom. We want choice to do what we want to do. We want to live life more fully and freely than we have been. And so how do you do that? Many of us are trying to figure that out. And this week I named this conversation The Chicken and the Egg of Change. Where do we start? What comes first? Because this week I was listening to one of the very famous guru who has influenced me greatly and I've learned a lot from. But I heard him say, basically implying you just need to try it a different way, try harder, try more. And why I call this the chicken and the egg is if many of us are working very hard, there are people working 2 and 3 jobs. There are people working lots of hours, pushing hard and grinding, but they're still not accomplishing what they want to accomplish. What's going on? I have dedicated the last 20 plus years of understanding success. First for myself, trying to make my way through the challenges I was facing. And now I'm on a journey of figuring out how to help you, how to have this conversation in a way that's beneficial to you. If you would leave a comment below, I would greatly appreciate it. Reach out to me by email, david@davidlandis.me. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me what your questions are. I would love to have a conversation. I am teaching, I coach, and I help people move through life in a way that they want to. Accomplish goals, navigate transitions personally, professionally. It is possible. There is a way to do it. And that's why we're having this conversation, because I look back now and listen to many of the people that I listened to for a very long time and try to figure out what was I not hearing when I was listening before. What do I understand now that I didn't understand then? And this guru, as I said, was implying just work harder, be more accountable, more disciplined. All of those things play a role, but if working hard and pushing and grinding was enough, there would be a lot more successful people in the world. So what's going on? After the push and the grind and the challenge and the change of taking responsibility, challenge of change and taking responsibility, if that's not the answer, then the other answer is mindset. The other answer is you need to think differently. Now that's a little bit more complex, nuanced. Do you understand what mindset is? I get so frustrated listening to people throw around mindset, not understanding mindset and not understanding how to navigate that process. It's an interesting idea. We do not get the choice whether or not we are programmable. We are programmable by nature, but we do get to choose how we are programmed. But unless you understand that process, it's not going to happen. What's happening right now is the world is very upset. The world's got lots of challenges and difficulties, wars and conflict and financial stresses and strains, changes and challenges. The world is moving forward so fast that we can't keep it. It's creating anxiety, stress, concern. And I want to have this conversation to offer you help. When you leave today's conversation, what is my hope for you? To realize that you can change. We just haven't understood it. It's not common knowledge. It upsets me that we have disregarded understanding and studying personal growth, personal development, and that process. That we don't have a common system, a common structure, a common practice. That we don't value it widely and as generally as we need to. We as a community, we as the world. If we're going to move forward in a way that is fulfilling, a way that is powerful, a way that we want to live life that is sustainable, sure, we can push and grind and all of that stuff. But if that made people happy, why would so many successful people not be happy? Why do we hear about suicides and death and overdoses and all of the things with people that have so much? There's more going on here. We need to have these conversations. It's important. It's imperative. That's why I'm here. And I'm glad you're here too. And I would love to hear back what you're thinking. So why do we struggle? I believe, first of all, that we have an unlimited potential. You, me, I say possibility is personal. You, me, we each are an unknown potential. No one knows or can tell us the limits to what could be possible for any of us. But at the same time, that presents a challenge, because as we're sensing this potential within us, and we're facing the challenges in our world, the needs that we have for time and money freedom, for choice and control, and a sense of calm and clarity in a crazy world, what do? It leaves many of us stuck between hope and doubt, which is the worst place I believe any of us can be. The hope that more is possible, but the belief that it's not going to be possible for me. And it just doesn't need to be that way. That's why we have these conversations. If you would share this with other people that you think this will be helpful to, I would appreciate it. So we can forward this mission. This is a larger conversation that we're going to keep having here. Every week I will be here to show up for these conversations, and I'm glad you're here. So if changing the world out there, because many of us also are working to control other people, situations, circumstances, trying to will the government into being what we want it to be, the finances, the financial markets into what we want them to be, trying to hope and stress and strain in an attempt to somehow magically control the world around us. It's not going to happen. So if we can't control out there, maybe if we begin to look inside. It begins, yes, as the guru says in this commercial, you need to take responsibility for your life and to make things happen, to make changes. Yes, that's true. But it goes deeper than that. It goes another step. Success is an inside-out game. Change doesn't begin out there. Change begins in here, and who you want to become in the process of living the life you want to live. Because it's going to be a process. It's going to be a practice. This isn't something quick and easy and simple, but it is possible when you understand how it works. And that's why we need to have these conversations. What people say about mindset, about thinking differently about the world. Success isn't the result of what you do, but it's the result of what you do about what you think. So the chicken and the egg, where do you begin? We begin by understanding first that you are changeable, that you can change, that more is possible. But we have just been working in the wrong direction. We've been working from the outside in instead of the inside out. We've been trying to change the world around us, to do more, to push more, to try more, without beginning in here, within yourself. There's nothing wrong with you, yet if you're struggling and straining, it's not that you're somehow broken or that there's a problem with you. It's just that we haven't been taught. It's not common understanding, not a common conversation. And that's why, as I said, we have these conversations. So the first step is to understand, yes, you can change. Give yourself a break. If you have struggled with goals, you're struggling to reach the challenges you're facing, to meet the challenges you're facing, if you're struggling with the anxiety and the stress and the strain of your situation, I get it. We need to have practices. We need to understand life from a different perspective. So this conversation this week, the chicken and the egg, the first step is to realize there is more possible. If you want to find out more, continue to show up here for these conversations. As I said, message me and go to my website, davidlandis.me. And there's more resources there, and we can continue that conversation there also. What area of life do you want to change? Let's begin there. Oftentimes, we spend a lot of time knowing what we don't want, but we spend very little time knowing what we do want. Understanding change begins with understanding how we might want to be in the situation. Oftentimes we can imagine the world out there being different, but we don't realize that we need to be different also. I listened to somebody talking about being famous and realizing when they came home, they still needed to take out the trash. We often imagine the world that we want to live in, But we don't imagine that that world has trash to take out, or people get sick, or challenges still happen. The world out there is always going to have struggles and strains and challenges and difficulties. Where the control is, where the choice is coming back to yourself and beginning to understand yourself differently. Beginning to think about yourself differently and how you show up in the world differently. Not that you're not trying, not that you're not working, not that you're not pushing, but that you understand yourself, you learn to understand yourself differently. Think about yourself differently. It's an inside-out game. So we think about what it is we want. So who would you be in that world where you want to live in when challenges show up? Say you have the money you want, the career that you want, the satisfaction in relationships and fulfillment that you want, that shows up in the world out there. Who are you in that world? How do you respond when it's time to take out the trash, to vacuum the floor, to the challenges of life that show up? Because we all have them, no matter your level of success. It's just part of life. The problem isn't out there. The challenge is in here, and learning to think about yourself and your situation differently. So how, a minute ago, I said, we don't get a choice as to whether we're programmable or not. Only how we're programmed. What does that mean? Much of your life, you've learned to live from a certain mindset, a certain thinking about yourself and how you are in the world, and then the thinking about how other people are and about how the world is in general. And that sets up the structure for how you live your life. So how do we access that? If we can't change the world out there, and it begins with thinking, we begin with understanding that we are programmed, indoctrinated, whatever. When you were born, you weren't born with thoughts about the world. My first grandchild was just born, and I watch him and I think about his experience of life. He's beginning to look out at the world and let the world tell him who he is. And unless at some point, as he grows up, he begins to understand that he gets to choose who he wants to be and tell the world who he is, which many of us were never taught, never understood, that we begin to tell the world who we are and how we want to be and who we want to be in challenges and difficulties, in wonderful times, what we want to have and do and experience. We get to choose, but we have yet to learn that process. And that's mindset. It's beginning to learn how to reprogram ourselves, how to re-indoctrinate ourselves, how to think about ourselves differently, and then the rest of the world differently. So how does that programming, indoctrination take place? Repetition of patterns. So where does the chicken and the egg start? Is realizing first, you're changeable. You don't have to stay this way. Mindset is correct. We can begin to think differently, but it's a process and a practice. It's not a one-time thing. If somebody said, "I'll just think differently," you need to change your mindset, which I've heard people say before. It may be true, but there is a process and a practice to it. There's more to it. So it just leaves you frustrated when you say, "I need to change my mindset," and then things don't change because your mindset is set. And it requires a certain resetting process in order for it to change. And that requires understanding patterns. Repeating a pattern long enough so that the mindset, the pattern of thought, is changed. And that, as again, I said, it's a process and a practice. This isn't the solution conversation. This is just an awareness conversation, beginning to be aware. The chicken and the egg, first of all, you're not broken. The challenges, the difficulties you're facing in your business, in your life, your relationships, it requires a new thinking, a new mindset. But the mindset isn't a thing that you just put on and it just automatically, your thinking changes. If you've experienced that before, which we all have, we need to think differently, and then life just returns to the way it was. We try to do things in the world and then it just returns to the way it was. What's going on? It seems unchangeable, but it is changeable. We don't get a choice as whether or not we're programmed. We only get to choose how we're programmed when you understand the process of patterns. So first, life is changeable. You are changeable. And it is part of our innate human nature. The beautiful thing is, that capacity is within each of us. Not only within each of us is there an unknown potential. Within each of us, there is the capacity. We are born this way to be creators, to be able to imagine and be able to change and adjust and adapt to a new world. We can do that intentionally on purpose in the direction that we want to go when you understand how to do it. Even if you don't understand how to do it, life does it. It's an innate human quality. We do it all the time. You are not who you were 10 years ago, and you're not who you're going to be 10 years from now. You're not now who you're going to be 10 years from now. You're always changing. And up until now in history, our ability to change and the slow pace of it has been good enough. But right now, good enough is almost not enough, because the world is changing too fast. And if we are not able to learn, unlearn, and relearn, as Alvin Toffler says, or said in the past, we're going to be left behind and we're going to be struggling. And these conversations are about hope. Hope is made up of three parts: having a goal, knowing the path, and having the capacity to travel that path to get to your goal. And many of us have lived lives of frustration, difficulties, challenges, not knowing this process, this mechanical, controllable process, and not had access to what we hope, what we need, what we want to change in our lives. And we just feel as though the world is forcing us through a life that we really don't want to live, and we're experiencing results we don't really want to experience. More is possible. I have spent 20 plus years working to understand this. It even began before that, informally, as a young man, trying to figure out life and how to live life. And then as I became an adult and became a firefighter for 30 years, my job was solving problems. I spent every day going to work, solving unknown problems, living in the middle of uncertainty and knowing how to move through it. And I've understood that framework of understanding, of preparation, of understanding tools and practices, preparation and practice, and then responding to the challenges of life. I can go through life in many ways similar to how I showed up for challenges and difficulties as a firefighter. It is possible to live life differently. You are not broken. The world isn't broken. It's working the way it works, but many of us have not understood this innate human quality, this skill, and know how. We don't have a system or a practice for changing it. And so we feel frustrated, angry, and at its worst, in depression and despair and struggle and strain. There is a different way to live life. There is a different way to experience life, and there is a different way to move through life and create the life experience. Whether you're in business or you're employed by somebody else, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're not employed and you run a household, take care of family, whatever it is you do, you can move through life intentionally on purpose. I'm pushing against hopelessness. I'm pushing against despair. It's not necessary. More is possible when you understand how to access it. So that's the chicken and the egg. More pushing, more straining, doing things the same way you've been doing them, you're going to continue to get the things you've been getting. Kind of on a soapbox there, but I'm passionate about this subject. I'm passionate about helping you. I'm passionate about helping all of us who are moving into this future, sensing that we could lead into the future if we really believed in ourselves. We believed in our capacity to create change and create results, create the success that we want financially, time, relationships, and connection, our ability to experience a fulfilling, enjoyable life, even in the middle of challenges and changes. We all experience them, but there's a different way to look at it. It begins with self-mastery. It begins an inside-out journey, an inside-out process. So what area of life would be most important to you to change? As I said, for many of us, it's time, it's money, it's relationships are the big three that many of us are facing. If you were going to create a change, what would it look like? how would you experience life differently? And how long are you willing to continue doing things the way that you've been doing them? Unfortunately, many of us are in positions. You have people depending on you. You have employees waiting for answers, needing leadership. You have family. You have people you have made commitments to who have supported and believed in you. We're each in different situations on this journey, but whatever it is you sense, whatever you want to improve, what goals you want to reach or change you want to navigate, you can do that more intentionally, on purpose, with skill. When you develop the skill, when you prepare, when you understand, when you practice and use tools and intentionally move your way forward, more is possible. I'm glad you're here for this conversation. I want to encourage you. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? You are changeable. Doing the same thing you've been doing isn't going to get different results. So we need to begin to go down into what's going on here. Our thinking needs to change. We can't depend on the world to change, because the world is going to change, and most likely not in the direction that we would prefer it to move. So if we want to live life that we want to live, it begins on the inside. It begins learning, understanding, developing the capacity to master yourself in order to create and influence the change you want to see in the world. The time, the money, the connection, the relationships, the contribution, the difference you want to make. It's all important. It all matters. But it all begins with you and your thinking and what you do about what you think. Your results can change because you can change. If you want to understand more about this, I would love to talk about it with you. I'm going to continue to do these videos every week and have these conversations every week. I will be putting out trainings. I am developing a wait list right now for the first training I'm going to be doing before the end of the year. It is mid-October 2023 when I'm making this video now. And before the end of November, I will be having a first training online. I would love to put you on the wait list so that I can choose the best time for our schedules as we begin to work together. As I said, reach out to me. Follow me here. Leave me a message here. Go to davidlandis.me. You can find resources there, or email me at david@davidlandis.me. 4 different ways you can contact me. Get on the wait list. Ask questions. Help influence and guide me in creating videos for you each week. And we'll keep working at this. More is possible. Hope is possible. Life can change in the direction that you want it to change when you begin with yourself and doing things differently. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? I'm still not sure, but I do know that we begin with our thinking, which is influenced by the patterns that we put into place to shape our thinking. I'm glad you were here. Again, follow me here, leave me a message here, reach out, let's talk. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.